I stood alone at my husband's funeral, not because I had no one, but because our 3 children chose a beach party instead. If you've ever stood somewhere alone when you shouldn't have had to, you'll understand what I did next. The funeral home was small, oak casket, closed, white lilies everywhere. The smell was thick, sweet, wrong. Yellow lights made everything look tired. An organ played hymns for a room of 7 people. Me, 2 elderly neighbors, one of Richard's old co-workers, 3 funeral home staff who stood near the walls like furniture. My hands rested on the casket, cold, smooth, foreign. 48 hours earlier, I'd gotten the messages, 3 separate texts from 3 separate children, all with reasons that sounded reasonable if you didn't think too hard. Jessica, 35, sent hers first. "Mom, I know this is hard, but we already paid for the beach house. Dad would want us to live." Then Adam, 31. "It's just a funeral. He's already gone. This won't change anything." Finally Claire, 28. "You're being dramatic. We'll visit the grave next month." I didn't feel shock when I read them. I felt something worse. Confirmation. A dull ache of knowing something I'd refused to see for years. I thought about the 35 years before that moment. The mornings I woke at 5:30 to pack lunches with notes tucked inside. The school plays I never missed, even when I had the flu. The science fair projects I stayed up late helping to finish. The college application essays I proofread at midnight. The way I showed up, always, without asking if it was convenient. Richard had been the same. A quiet man who worked 60 hours a week so the kids never had to want for anything. He fixed their cars, co-signed their leases, paid for weddings and down payments and emergencies that weren't really emergencies. 3 months of liver cancer, 3 months of his body eating itself from the inside. He was gentle about it, the way he was gentle about everything. "They'll come," he said from the hospital bed. "They're just busy." But they didn't come. Not to the hospital during those final weeks. Not to hold his hand when his breathing got shallow. Not when the nurse said it would be hours, not days. I was the one who sat there. I was the one who moistened his lips with a sponge. I was the one who told him it was okay to let go. He died on June 14th at 11:47 at night. I held his hand until it went cold. After the funeral, I drove home. Our house, 4 bedrooms. The kids' rooms hadn't been slept in for years, but I'd kept them ready, like museums of who they used to be. Now the silence felt different, not empty, heavier, like the absence had weight. I sat at the kitchen table, 6 chairs, 1 person. On the refrigerator, a magnet held a photo from 10 years ago. Disneyland. All of us grinning. That version of us didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never had. My phone had been buzzing since 6 in the morning. 47 missed calls, 89 messages. I opened it. Jessica. "Mom, take that down right now. Do you know how this makes us look?" Adam. "This is fucking manipulative. You're publicly shaming us." Claire. "I can't believe you do this. My friends are asking questions. Delete it." Not one asked how I was. Not one apologized for missing their father's last goodbye. Just panic. Just rage about how they look to other people. 214 comments sat under the photo. Friends, colleagues, distant relatives, all asking the same thing. Where were the children? I opened my photos, scrolled back to June 14th, 11:47 in the evening, Richard in the hospital bed, thin, pale, but smiling somehow, trying for me, always trying. I touched the screen. My thumb hovered over the post button on Facebook. I didn't write a caption. I didn't need to. The date stamp said everything. June 14th, 11:47 at night, 2 hours before he died. While they were taking selfies in swimsuits. The morning after the funeral, sunlight cut through the kitchen window curtains. I sat at the same table with the same cold coffee. The same 6-chair table that only ever held 1 person now. On the refrigerator, that Disneyland photo stared at me, all of us smiling like we meant it. 10 years ago, a different family, or maybe just a family I'd wanted to believe in. My phone hadn't stopped vibrating since 6 in the morning. 47 missed calls had become 63. 89 messages had become 112. I didn't answer. I just looked at the screen. Their names lit up over and over. Jessica, Adam, Claire, Jessica, Adam, Claire. I opened the messages. Jessica. People are calling me at work. My boss saw it. Take it down. Adam. This is elder abuse. You're trying to ruin our lives. Claire. I thought you loved us. This is how you treat your own children? Not one word about their father. Not one acknowledgement of what they'd missed. Just fear. Just anger that the world could see what they'd done. The comments under the photo had grown. 214 had become 308. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Richard's co-workers. People from church. The woman who used to cut my hair. Where were his children? Praying for you, Helen. You shouldn't have had to stand alone. This breaks my heart. Those kids should be ashamed. I closed the app. Put the phone face down on the table. The refrigerator hummed. I opened it. A casserole from the neighbor, still in the glass dish with foil on top. I hadn't touched it. Couldn't. The thought of eating something someone else made because they pitied me felt like swallowing stones. I walked to the cupboard. The wedding china sat on the top shelf. Service for 12, 35 years old. I only ever used one plate now, one mug, one fork. In the living room, photo albums lined the bookshelf. I didn't open them, just ran my finger along the spines. So much dust. I'd been keeping these memories clean for years, but the memories themselves had gone sour. I went into Richard's room, our room. His side of the closet still held his shirts, blue Oxford, gray flannel, the striped one he wore to Claire's wedding. I pressed my face into the fabric. His cologne was faint but still there. Sandalwood and something else I could never name. His nightstand held his reading glasses. A water glass with a faint lipstick mark. Not lipstick. Chapstick. The medicated kind for when his lips cracked during chemo. I sat on his side of the bed. The mattress dipped the way it used to when he was still here. Still breathing. Still hoping the kids would visit. They never did. Not during the 3 months of cancer eating him alive. Not when he couldn't walk to the bathroom alone. Not when he asked me if they were mad at him, as if he'd done something wrong by getting sick. I realized something sitting there. I'd been living in a museum, not of who the kids used to be, of who I'd wanted them to be. I'd been dusting shelves and keeping rooms ready for people who were never coming back. Maybe they'd never existed at all. I went back to the kitchen table, pulled out a pad of paper and a pen. Started writing. Things they never said thank you for. $180,000 for college, all 3 of them, state schools, but still, we paid every cent. $45,000 for Jessica's down payment, her first house. She texted a photo of the keys, never invited us over. $28,000 for Adam's first car, totaled it 6 months later. Asked for money for the next one. $35,000 for Claire's wedding, open bar, live band, destination bachelorette party in Mexico. She didn't include us in any of the photos she posted online. The list went on. 3 pages, single-spaced, 34 years of showing up, of giving, of believing it meant something. At the bottom, I wrote 4 words in capital letters. They chose the beach. 4 days after the funeral, I called Margaret Holloway. She was 68, a family attorney. We'd met years ago at a book club that didn't exist anymore. She'd been widowed for 12 years. She understood the things people don't say out loud. Her office was downtown, wood paneling, the smell of peppermint tea, natural light from tall windows, no fluorescent overhead, just warmth. "Helen," she said when I walked in, "tell me what you need." I sat across from her desk, leather chair, old but good, the kind that holds you. I told her everything. The funeral with 7 people, the beach house, the texts, the photo I posted. 35 years of showing up. Richard dying while they took selfies in swimsuits. Margaret didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, just listened with her hands folded on the desk. When I finished, she said, "What do you want to do?" "I want to change the will, Richard's will, and mine." She opened a folder, pulled out documents I didn't know she already had ready. Richard left the house. $680,000 in equity. A retirement account, $340,000, life insurance, $250,000. Together, about $1.27 million. I'd never heard it said out loud like that. $1.27 million. 35 years of work, of saving, of not taking vacations so the kids could have weddings and down payments and cars. The current will splits everything, Margaret said. Half to you, half divided among Jessica, Adam, and Claire. I want it all to go to me. And when I die, 100% to cancer research, nothing to the kids. Margaret looked at me, not with shock, with something like recognition. This will burn every bridge, Helen. They already burned it. I'm just sweeping up the ashes. She didn't try to talk me out of it, didn't ask if I was sure, just nodded and started pulling forms from a drawer. I'll prepare the amendment. It's legal. You're of sound mind. You have every right to distribute your assets however you choose. She slid a stack of papers across the desk, 14 pages. I read every word, every clause, every legal phrase that meant my children would inherit nothing. I'll also draft a formal notification letter, Margaret said. You're not required to explain your reasoning, but if you want to include a personal note, now's the time. I took a blank sheet of paper, wrote 4 sentences, not emotional, not angry, just true. Your father died hoping you'd come. You chose the ocean over him. I choose to honor his memory by ensuring his life's work supports those who show up. This is not punishment. This is consequence. Margaret read it, nodded, attached it to the legal documents. I signed every page. My hand didn't shake. I thought it would, but it didn't. Each signature felt like closing a door I'd been holding open for 34 years. They'll receive certified letters within a week, Margaret said. All communication after that goes through me. You don't have to speak to them if you don't want to. I hadn't thought about that. The possibility of silence, of not having to answer, of not having to explain or defend or justify. Can I block their numbers? Legally, yes. You're not obligated to maintain contact. I pulled out my phone right there in her office, turned off silent mode. 127 new messages. I didn't read them, just went into settings. Blocked Jessica, blocked Adam, blocked Claire. The phone went quiet, actually quiet, not buzzing, not lighting up, just still. Margaret printed a final document. Contact information for her office, a statement I could send if anyone asked questions. Forward this to anyone who reaches out. Let me handle the noise. I took the paper, folded it, put it in my purse next to the list I'd written, the 3-page inventory of everything they'd never thanked me for. I stood. Margaret walked me to the door. You did the right thing, she said. I didn't know if that was true, but I knew it was the clear thing. And for the first time in 35 years, I knew exactly who I was. A woman who would no longer fund the people who couldn't show up when it mattered most. That Friday afternoon, I went through Richard's closet. Each shirt was a memory I didn't want but couldn't forget. The navy suit from our wedding, 35 years old but still good. He wore it once a year on our anniversary, took me to the same Italian restaurant every time, ordered the same wine. The gray sweater I gave him for Christmas 20 years ago, worn thin at the elbows. He refused to replace it. The striped button-down he wore to Claire's wedding. I remembered watching him knot his tie that morning, his hands shaking, not from nerves, from hoping she'd ask him to walk her down the aisle. She had her stepfather do it, her mother's second husband, a man who'd known her 6 years. In the jacket pocket, I found 3 things: 2 peppermint candies, the kind Richard always carried, and a receipt dated April 19th, 2 months before he died. Yellow tulips, $42, my favorite flower. He bought them for no occasion, just because it was Tuesday and he saw them and thought of me. I sat on the closet floor, held the receipt. The paper was thin, fading, but I could still read every word. We'd been married 35 years. I was 27 when we met. He was 29. I'd just taken a job in marketing. He was an engineer. We met at a work conference that neither of us wanted to attend, bonded over bad coffee and worse small talk. I gave up my career when Jessica was born, stayed home because daycare cost more than I made. Then Adam came, then Claire. By the time the youngest started school, I'd been out of the workforce 12 years. Nobody wanted to hire a 40-year-old woman whose last job was in the 90s. So I stayed home, made it my career, packed lunches with notes, drove to soccer practice and piano lessons and debate tournaments. stayed up late, helping with projects and essays and applications. Richard worked 60-hour weeks. Not because he loved his job, because college was expensive, because weddings cost money, because our kids wanted things we never had growing up and we wanted to give them everything. We ate pasta 4 nights a week so the kids could have organic meat, wore clothes for 10 years so they could wear brand names, drove used cars so they could have new ones. I remembered Jessica at 24, called asking for $8,000. Emergency, she said. I didn't ask questions, just transferred the money. Found out later from her Instagram. She'd gone to Italy with her boyfriend. 2 weeks, first-class flights, hotels on the coast. She never paid me back, never mentioned it again. Adam borrowed constantly. 500 here, 1,000 there, always an emergency. Car repairs, security deposits, medical bills that insurance didn't cover. Except he never had insurance because he didn't want to pay for it. Said it was a scam. Claire was the worst. Not because she asked for the most money, because she asked with the most entitlement. Never, can you help me? Always, I need you to send. As if we owed her. As if $35,000 for her wedding wasn't enough. I pulled out my phone, opened the Excel file I'd kept since 2008. Family expenses. Every dollar we'd given them after they turned 18. Jessica. $158,000 total. Tuition. Rent when she was finding herself in her 20s. The down payment. Emergency loans that were never repaid. Adam. $134,000. Tuition. The first car. The second car. The third car. Rent. Bills. Cash. Just until payday that never came back. Claire. $171,000. Tuition, the wedding, furniture for her first apartment, a business loan for a boutique that closed in 8 months. Grand total, $463,000, not counting everything we spent when they were children, not counting the years I gave up working, not counting the life Richard worked himself to death to provide. I didn't regret giving them the money. I regretted never teaching them what it cost. I regretted believing that sacrifice was the same as love, that if I gave enough, they'd understand what it meant. But you can't buy presents. You can't fund loyalty. I folded Richard's jacket, put the receipt in my wallet, threw the candies away. Then I made tea instead of wine. Small choice. But it meant something. Crying was for things I could change. This was archaeology now. I was just brushing dust off bones, naming what had already died. Sunday morning. A knock at the door. Soft. Almost apologetic. I opened it. A kid stood on the porch, 19, maybe 20, worn hoodie, red nose from the cold. He held a plastic container. "Mrs. Patterson?" he said. "I'm Tyler, from next door. My mom said you might like these. Blueberry muffins, homemade, still warm through the plastic." She said Mr. Patterson loved blueberries. His voice cracked on the past tense. Loved, not loves. I took the container. "Come in. It's cold." He hesitated. "I don't want to bother you." "You're not." The kitchen felt different with someone else in it. Not full, but less hollow. I put the muffins on the counter, made hot chocolate without asking if he wanted any. Just made it. 2 mugs. The way I used to when the kids were young and actually came home. Tyler sat at the table, didn't touch anything, just folded his hands like he was trying not to take up space. "I'm really sorry," he said, "about what happened. At the funeral. My mom told me. You don't have to apologize for them. But it's not right. My dad died when I was 11. If I'd been old enough and didn't go to his funeral." He looked at his hands. "I don't know how I'd live with that." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the other kind. The kind where someone understands without needing more words. "Your mom's friends with Jessica on Facebook?" I asked. "Was. Not anymore. She commented on your post, said your kids should be ashamed. They unfriended her." I almost smiled. Good for Tyler's mom. Good for saying what needed saying. Tyler wrapped his hands around the mug. "This place feels like it's waiting for something." "Maybe it is." "I'm taking carpentry at community college," he said. "If you ever need anything fixed, shelves, cabinets, I'd be happy to help. No charge." Not charity. That's what mattered. He wasn't offering out of pity. He was offering contribution. The way people used to before everything became transactional. I might take you up on that, I said. I've been thinking about turning Richard's office into something else. A reading nook, maybe. I could do that. Measure it out. Draw up some plans. See what you think. We sat there. Drank hot chocolate. He told me about his classes, about learning to use a lathe, about the dining table he was building for his mom's birthday. Not because she asked. Because he wanted to. I thought about my own kids at 19. Jessica had been in college, calling twice a month to ask for money. Adam had been failing out of his first semester, blaming his professors for not understanding his learning style. Claire had been backpacking through Europe on our dime, posting photos but never calling. None of them had ever made anything with their hands, never offered to fix something broken, never showed up with muffins. Tyler finished his chocolate, stood. I should get back, but I meant what I said. Saturday if you want. I can come measure the office, bring my tools. Saturday works. He left through the front door, waved as he crossed the lawn back to his mother's house. I watched him go. A kid who barely knew us, who showed up anyway. I opened the muffin container, still warm. I ate one standing at the kitchen counter. Blueberries, sweet, a little tart, the way Richard liked them. The house was quiet after Tyler left, but it wasn't the same quiet as before. Something had shifted, some small crack in the wall I'd been building around myself. Maybe this was what inheritance really meant, not money or houses, but presence. Tyler showed up with muffins. My own children couldn't show up with anything at all. I rinsed the mugs, put them in the dishwasher, made a note on the calendar, Saturday. Tyler, reading nook. Small necessary things that make a life. 3 weeks after the funeral, Jessica showed up without warning. I was watering the front garden, wearing Richard's old sweater, dirt under my nails, hair pulled back with a rubber band. A white BMW pulled into the driveway. Jessica got out, business suit, designer purse, perfect makeup. She looked like she'd come from a boardroom, or a battle. Mom, we need to talk, now. Not a request, a demand. I didn't invite her inside, just stood there on the porch, hose still running, water pooling on the grass. You can't just cut us out, she said. That's our inheritance. Dad worked for us too. I turned off the hose, set it down. Your father worked so you wouldn't have to struggle. You struggled anyway, against showing up. We had plans. We couldn't just cancel. You canceled his last goodbye for a beach selfie. Her face went red. That's not fair. What's not fair is that I stood alone next to his casket. What's not fair is that he asked about you every single day for 3 months and you were too busy. The words came out cold, not angry, just factual, like reading a grocery list. Jessica's voice changed, softer, calculated. Okay, we messed up, but you're our mother. You're supposed to forgive us. I do forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean funding. You're being vindictive. Her voice rose again. This is elder abuse, financial manipulation. I almost laughed. I'm 62 and sound of mind. I'm not manipulating anything. I'm choosing. So that's it? You're really giving everything to charity? To cancer research, yes. What about us? What about you? She stared at me like I'd slapped her, like the question itself was violence. We're your children. And he was your father. You had 3 months to show up. You chose the beach. Jessica's hands were shaking, not from cold, from rage she was trying to control. This is insane. You're going to regret this. No, I said. I regret not doing it sooner. She turned, didn't say goodbye, just got in her car, didn't close the door gently, slammed it, revved the engine, pulled out fast enough to leave tire marks on the street. I watched her go. My hands weren't shaking. My breath was steady. I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not grief, just clarity. I picked up the hose again, kept watering. The roses Richard planted 5 years ago, the lavender that bloomed every summer, the small herb garden we'd talked about expanding but never did. I was watering my own garden now, not theirs, not anymore. Inside, I made tea, sat at the kitchen table. There was a letter on the counter, from Jessica. She must have dropped it before getting back in her car. I hadn't noticed. The envelope said, Mom, in her handwriting. Careful print, the kind she used when she wanted something. I opened it. A single page. I know you're hurt, but you're being unreasonable. We all have lives, we all have responsibilities. You can't punish us forever for one mistake. We deserve a chance to make this right. Please reconsider. We love you. No mention of their father. No apology for missing the funeral. Just, we deserve, and we love you. Words without weight. The kind you say when you want something, but don't mean anything. I folded the letter, put it in a box in the closet with all the others, the $8,000 emergency that was really a vacation, the loan requests, the I'll pay you back promises that never came. Not evidence for a trial, just a record, a pattern, proof that I wasn't crazy, that this wasn't one mistake. It was 35 years of the same mistake on repeat. I closed the box, put it on the top shelf. She wanted me to feel guilty, but guilt only works when you've done something wrong. All I did was stop pretending their absence was love. Richard's sister called 2 days later. Aunt Teresa. I hadn't heard from her since the funeral. Helen, the kids called me. They're devastated. Can't you reconsider? I was folding laundry. Richard's shirts I hadn't given away yet, the ones that still smelled like him. Were they devastated at the beach, Teresa? That's harsh. They made a mistake. You're turning this into a war. I'm not waging war. I'm just not surrendering anymore. Richard wouldn't have wanted this division. I stopped folding, held one of his shirts against my chest. Richard wanted his children at his funeral. We don't always get what we want. Teresa went quiet, then, softer. They're scared, Helen. They don't know how to fix this. They can't. She hung up. I went back to folding. That Wednesday, Adam called. Not texted. Called. I saw his name on the screen. Almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Mom, can I come by? Alone. When? Today, if that's okay. He showed up at 3. Didn't drive the car we bought him. Drove something older. A truck. Work boots. Flannel shirt. Not the Adam I remembered. Not the one in suits who worked in finance and complained about his bonus. He sat at the kitchen table. I made tea. Didn't say anything. Just waited. I don't know how to fix this, he said finally. You can't. I'm sorry. I really am. I was scared. Scared to see him like that. Being scared is human, Adam. Not showing up is a choice. He looked at his hands. They were shaking. I know that now. I didn't reach across the table. Didn't comfort him. His regret wasn't my responsibility to manage. Are you really giving everything away? I'm giving it to people who show up. That wasn't you. What if I show up now? Now doesn't erase then. He looked up, eyes red. So I just lose my mother too? I'm still your mother. I'm just not your ATM. Not anymore. The words landed hard. I could see them hit. See him try to process what that meant. A mother who loved him but wouldn't rescue him. Who would answer the phone but not send money. Who existed but wouldn't enable. Do you hate us? No. But I don't trust you with his memory. Adam sat there a long time, tea going cold in front of him. Finally he stood. I understand, he said. I don't like it, but I understand. He left through the front door, didn't slam it. Just closed it quietly, like he was trying not to wake someone. After he left, I went to the backyard. The tulip bulbs Richard planted last fall were coming up. Small green shoots pushing through cold dirt. Spring was still weeks away, but life was already starting. I knelt down, touched the new growth. Dirt under my fingernails, cold seeping through my jeans. You won't see them bloom, Richard, but I will. Spring was coming. It didn't ask permission. It didn't wait for reconciliation. It just arrived, indifferent and inevitable, like consequences always do. Monday morning in April. Margaret's office. The same wood paneling, the same peppermint tea, sunlight through tall windows. Clean, bright, no shadows. Margaret set 3 folders on her desk, each one labeled, each one final. Will amendment, complete. Trust documents. Cancer research receives $1.27 million upon your death. Power of attorney, assigned to me, not to the children. I picked up the first folder. Read every page. Every clause that said my children would inherit nothing. Every word that made it legal, binding, irreversible. "This is it," Margaret said. "Once filed, it's public record. They'll know." "Good. Let them know." I signed the first page. My signature looked different than it used to, steadier, more certain. Margaret watched me sign each document, 14 pages total. She didn't rush me, didn't look impatient, just present, witnessing. When I finished the last signature, she leaned back in her chair. "Helen, I have to ask one more time, not because I doubt you, because I want you to be sure. Is this what you want? Not what you're angry about, what you want." I looked out the window. A tree outside was budding, new leaves, green against gray bark. For 35 years, I confused sacrifice with love. I thought if I gave enough, they'd value it. But you can't buy presents. You can't fund loyalty. I turned back to her. When Richard died, I realized something. I wasn't sad they didn't come. I was relieved I finally saw them clearly. This isn't about anger anymore. It's about clarity. Margaret smiled. Not happy, just understanding. Clarity is the most expensive thing you'll ever own. It costs everything you thought you knew. Then I'm rich. She gathered the documents, put them in a large envelope. We drove together to the post office, her car. She insisted on coming with me. 3 certified mail packages, one for Jessica, one for Adam, one for Claire. Each package contained a copy of the new will, a list of every dollar we'd given them since 2008. A photograph. Richard in the hospital bed. Date stamp. June 14th, 11:47 at night. No letter, no explanation, just facts. The postal clerk stamped each envelope. Thud, thud, thud. The sound was final, like doors closing, like chapters ending. Margaret drove me home, pulled into the driveway, turned off the engine but didn't get out. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Light, like I put down luggage I was never supposed to carry. She reached over, squeezed my hand once, then let go. I went inside, made tea, opened all the windows. It was 50 degrees outside, cold for April, but I wanted the air, wanted the house to breathe. I sat at the kitchen table with my tea, the phone on the counter, silent, actually silent. No buzzing, no lighting up, no names appearing that I'd have to ignore. I'd blocked them weeks ago. But this was different. This was chosen silence, not avoidance, just space. The house was quiet, but not empty. It was full of something I'd forgotten how to recognize. My own presence, my own breath, my own life happening in real time instead of memory. I wasn't waiting for their call anymore, wasn't waiting for an apology, wasn't waiting for them to understand. I wasn't waiting for anything. I was just here, finally, fully, mine. Peace had a sound. It sounded like breathing without holding. Friday afternoon, a knock at the door, Dorothy from across the street. She held a pot of soup. Lentil. I could smell the thyme from the porch. Dorothy was 67, widowed 8 years. 2 kids in Oregon. She talked about the way you talk about weather, factually, without warmth. "Thought you might be hungry," she said. I let her in. We didn't need invitations anymore. She'd brought food 3 times since Richard died, never stayed long, never asked questions, just showed up. We sat at the kitchen table. I got bowls, bread I'd baked that morning, first time I'd baked in months. The house had smelled like yeast and warmth, like it used to. Dorothy poured soup for both of us. We ate in silence, the comfortable kind, the kind where you don't need to fill space with words. "I heard the mail came," she said finally. Small street, big mouths. Of course she'd heard. "How do you feel?" "Lighter. Like I put down luggage I was never supposed to carry." Dorothy smiled. Not a happy smile, a knowing one. "About damn time." She ate another spoonful of soup, then set her spoon down. "When Tom died, my kids flew in, did the funeral, divided his tools, flew back out in 48 hours. I'd known Tom. Quiet man. Fixed everyone's cars in the neighborhood. Never charged. They call twice a year now, birthday and Christmas, 5 minutes each. Asking if I need anything. Not offering anything, just asking, like checking a box. I used to cry about it, she continued. Then I adopted a dog, joined a knitting group, started tutoring ESL at the library. One day, I realized I was happier than I'd been in 20 years. Do you miss them? I asked. I miss who I thought they were. But that woman? She was never real. She reached across the table, took my hand. Hers was warm, solid. You can't miss a ghost, Helen. You can only stop waiting for it to materialize. We finished the soup. She didn't ask about the will, didn't ask what the kids said, didn't need to. She already knew, had lived her own version years before. Do you think I'm cruel? I asked. Dorothy looked at me like I'd asked if the sky was purple. Cruel would be lying to them. You told the truth with money. That's the most honest thing you can do. She stood, started rinsing bowls. I joined her at the sink. We washed dishes together. No dishwasher, just hot water and soap and the rhythm of it. Your kids will survive, Dorothy said. Rich people's children always do. They're not rich. Dorothy dried a bowl, set it on the counter. Helen, they chose a beach vacation over a funeral. That's rich people behavior. I almost laughed. The sound surprised me, felt foreign, like a language I'd forgotten. You gave them everything, and they still chose the beach. What more proof do you need? The afternoon light came through the kitchen window. Golden, soft, the kind of light that makes everything look gentler than it is. Dorothy left through the front door, took the pot but left the leftover soup in a container. For tomorrow, she said. I stood at the window, watched her cross the street. She waved before going inside her house. I waved back. The kitchen smelled like lentils and thyme and bread. The dishes were clean, the table wiped down. Small, ordinary things. I made tea, sat at the table. The same table where I'd written the list, where I'd sat with Adam, where I'd eaten Tyler's muffins. The house was quiet, but not empty. It was full of something I was still learning to name. Not loneliness, not quite peace yet. Something between, something that felt like the beginning of enough. After Dorothy left, I washed the dishes slowly. The house was quiet, but not empty. It was full of me, and that was starting to feel like enough. Saturday morning. Tyler showed up at 10 exactly. Tool bag over his shoulder, notebook in his hand. He'd drawn sketches. Morning, Mrs. Patterson. Ready to see what we can do? I led him to Richard's office. The room I'd avoided for weeks. Door closed. Dust collecting. A museum of a life that ended. Tyler stepped inside, looked around, measuring with his eyes before he even pulled out the tape. If we take out the desk and move the filing cabinet, you'll have space for a reading chair. Big one, the kind you sink into. And we can do floating shelves on this wall. Open it up. Let the light in. I looked at the desk. Heavy oak. Richard bought it at an estate sale 30 years ago. Refinished it himself. Every scratch had a story. Can we donate the desk? Absolutely. Habitat for Humanity takes furniture. Someone will use it. That's better than storage. Tyler measured the walls, drew notes in his book, talked about wood types and brackets and paint colors. I half listened. Mostly I just watched him work. The way he moved with purpose. The way he treated the space like it mattered. You're sure about this? He asked. It's a big change. I looked around the room. File cabinets full of tax returns from 1995, engineering notebooks Richard hadn't opened in a decade, certificates and awards collecting dust. It's not big enough. We spent the afternoon clearing the office. Every file, every box, 30 years of paper. Tyler helped me sort. Financial records older than 7 years, shredded. Awards and certificates, photographed, then donated. Engineering notebooks, I kept those. Richard's handwriting, his thoughts, his calculations. But I didn't need the paper, just the memory. We found a box in the back of the closet. Old family photos, the kids at 5 and 7 and 9, gap-toothed smiles, Halloween costumes I'd sewn by hand, Christmas mornings with wrapping paper everywhere. I looked at those photos and felt nothing. Not warmth, not sadness, just recognition. These were people who used to exist. Maybe they never existed the way I remembered. You okay? Tyler asked. Yeah, just looking at ghosts. Want to keep them? Some. The ones of Richard and me. The rest can go. If I couldn't remember it without holding it, maybe I didn't need to remember it that way. We worked until 4. The office was empty, completely empty, just walls and windows and space. Tyler stood in the doorway. "I'll come back next weekend. Start building. It'll take a few Saturdays, but it'll be good. You'll see." After he left, I stood in the empty room. Sunlight came through the window, unfiltered. The carpet had darker squares where furniture used to be. Dust particles floated in the light. This was Richard's space for 15 years, where he worked late into the night, where he worried about money and kids and whether he was doing enough. He was always doing enough, too much, like me. In the desk drawer, I'd found an envelope earlier. Richard's handwriting. "For Helen, open when you're ready." I'd put it in my pocket, hadn't opened it yet, wasn't sure I was ready. But I pulled it out now, stood in the empty office with the envelope in my hands. I didn't open it, not yet. Just knowing Richard left me words meant only for me was enough. Some gifts are best saved. Some truths need the right silence. I folded the envelope, put it back in my pocket, close to my heart. Tomorrow maybe, or next week, when the room was finished, when I could sit in the reading chair, Tyler would build and open it in the space that was mine now. Not ours, mine. That night, 11 o'clock, I couldn't sleep. The envelope sat on my nightstand, calling to me, not with words, just with presence. I turned on the lamp, sat up in bed, the envelope in my lap. My hands were shaking. I opened it carefully. Inside, 2 pages, Richard's careful handwriting, neat rows, engineering precision even in grief. The date at the top, May 2nd, 2 weeks before he died. I started reading. "Helen, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if I know you, and I do after 35 years, you're probably sitting alone, wondering if you did enough. You did. God, Linda, you did. I know the kids didn't come. I'm writing this because I can feel it. The way they pull away when I ask them to visit. The way they change the subject when you mention my appointments. I'm not angry at them. I'm sad for them. They're going to realize too late what they missed. But I'm angry for you. You deserved better. You deserved children who showed up. You deserved to not carry everything alone. I'm sorry I didn't say this enough. You are the bravest person I've ever known, not because you stayed, because you loved people who didn't know how to love you back. Whatever you decide to do after I'm gone, about the house, the money, the kids, I trust you. Do what makes you happy, not what makes them comfortable. You've earned the right to be selfish, Helen. Take it. And one more thing. Plant something, anything. I want you to watch something grow that isn't grief. I love you. I see you. I always have. Richard." I read it 3 times. Each time, the words hit differently. First time, shock. Second time, recognition. Third time, permission. He knew. He'd known all along. Known they wouldn't come. Known I'd stand alone. Known I'd blame myself. And he'd written this to tell me it wasn't my fault. The tears came. Not the angry kind from the funeral, not the bitter kind from the hospital, the kind that comes from being seen, really seen, by someone who knew all of you and loved you anyway. I held the letter against my chest, cried into Richard's pillow, the one that still smelled faintly like him, sandalwood, and something I could never name. He'd asked me to plant something. I would, but not flowers, something that feeds people, something that gives. He'd like that. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, set it on his nightstand, not mine, his, where it belonged. I got out of bed, went to the window, looked out at the backyard. Dark except for the neighbor's porch light, but I could see the outline of the garden, the tulips that were blooming now, the space where I'd plant tomatoes, herbs, things that grow and give and don't ask for anything but water and sun. Richard had seen me, had known what I'd need to hear, had written it down when his hands were shaking from cancer and pain, but he used them anyway. To give me this, the permission I couldn't give myself. I wasn't crying anymore, just breathing, in and out, steady. Tomorrow I'd go to the garden center, buy seeds, tomatoes, basil, thyme, rosemary, strawberries maybe, things that come back every year, things that feed you. Richard asked me to plant something. I was planting a whole garden, a whole life, a whole version of myself I'd forgotten existed. I went back to bed, turned off the light, but I didn't feel alone. The letter was there. His words, his seeing, his love that didn't ask me to be smaller so others could be comfortable. He'd planted something in me, and it was finally growing. Sunday morning, I woke up at 6:30. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I put on Richard's old flannel shirt, the blue one, oversized, soft from years of washing. It smelled like the closet now, not like him, but that was okay. I was wearing it for me, not for memory. I opened every window in the house, all of them. Living room, kitchen, bedrooms. The April air came in, cold, fresh, alive. I went to the kitchen, made coffee. Not the cheap kind we used to buy, the good kind, the kind I'd seen at the store and always thought was too expensive. Poured it into Richard's favorite mug. The one that said, "World's okayest engineer," a joke gift from a coworker 15 years ago. I turned on the radio, oldies station, Motown. Ain't No Mountain High Enough came on, Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. Richard loved this song, used to sing it while doing dishes. Off-key but enthusiastic. I started dancing, right there in the kitchen, alone, no one watching, no one judging, just me and the music and the morning light. I spun in circles, arms out, head back, laughing, actually laughing, the kind that comes from your stomach, the kind that feels like release. "This is my house," I said out loud. To no one, to the walls, to the morning. My house. My house. I danced through the living room, past the photos I'd rearranged, past the empty spaces where the kids' clutter used to be, past the couch where Richard used to fall asleep watching baseball. The music changed. Dancing in the street, I turned it up, louder, loud enough that Dorothy probably heard it across the street. I didn't care. I was 62 years old, dancing alone in my living room in my dead husband's shirt, and I felt more alive than I had in 35 years. When the song ended, I turned off the radio, stood in the silence, breathing hard, smiling. I went to the bedroom. To Richard's closet, found the shoebox of cards at the back. Valentine's Day cards he'd given me over the years. I'd kept them, but never looked at them. Too busy. Too tired. Too focused on everyone else. I sat on the floor, opened the box, started reading. 2003. Thank you for making this house a home. 2011. You make ordinary days feel like enough. 2019. I don't say it enough, but I notice everything you do. They were love letters, all of them, small, quiet, the kind you miss when you're not paying attention. But I was paying attention now. I read every card, 28 of them, one for every Valentine's Day we'd had together. Some years we didn't have money for dinner out, but he always got a card. Always wrote something inside. The last one was from this year, February 14th, 4 months before he died, 3 months into cancer. Still the best decision I ever made. Love you, always. His handwriting was shaky. The cancer had already started affecting his hands, but he'd written it anyway. I held that card for a long time, just held it. Let myself feel the weight of being loved, really loved, by someone who saw me, who noticed, who stayed. I put the cards back in the box, took it to the living room, set it on the bookshelf. Not hidden, just there, part of the house, part of my life. Then I got dressed. Real clothes, jeans, a sweater, tennis shoes. Grabbed my purse and keys. I drove to the garden center, bought 6 tomato plants, basil, thyme, rosemary, 2 strawberry plants, bags of soil, fertilizer, garden gloves. The cashier, a young woman with kind eyes, helped me load everything into the car. "Big project?" she asked. "New beginning," I said. I drove home, unloaded everything in the backyard, knelt in the dirt. The ground was still cold, hard, but workable. I planted each seedling carefully, pressed the soil around the roots, watered them. My knees hurt, my back ached, my hands were covered in dirt. This was good tired, earned tired, the kind that comes from building, not breaking. 2 months after the funeral, early August, I was watering the garden at 5 in the evening. The tomatoes were heavy on the vines, basil thick and fragrant. The strawberries had given me 3 bowls already. A car pulled up. Not in the driveway, just at the curb. Claire sat inside, engine running, like she might leave any second. I didn't stop watering, just kept the hose moving, steady. She got out. No business suit this time. Jeans, plain t-shirt, hair in a ponytail, no makeup. She looked like the girl she used to be, 16, uncertain. Before she learned to perform. She didn't come through the gate, just stood outside it, holding a small paper bag. I turned off the hose, walked to the fence, didn't open the gate. "I'm not asking to come in," she said. Her voice was small. Nothing like the confident daughter who'd posted vacation photos while her father died. "I just brought something." She set the bag on the fence post, stepped back. "What is it?" "Bulbs, for the garden. Dad loved daffodils." I looked at the bag, didn't pick it up yet. "I'm sorry, Mom." Her eyes were red, not fresh crying, the kind of red that comes from weeks of it. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry." I didn't say anything, just stood there, waiting. "I don't have an excuse," Claire continued. "We were selfish, and I've been thinking about it every day since." Thinking isn't the same as showing up. I know. The silence between us was heavy, the kind that holds years of disappointment. "Why now?" I asked. Claire looked at her hands. "Because I planted a garden with my daughter last week. Lily's 5, she asked. Did Grandpa like flowers? And I realized I don't actually know. I never asked him." She was crying now, quiet, no drama, just tears running down her face. "I can't undo the beach, Mom, but I can stop pretending it didn't matter." It did matter. It still does. I know. I picked up the bag, opened it, 20 daffodil bulbs, yellow, Richard's favorite, a note inside in Claire's handwriting. "For the man who showed up every day. I'm sorry I didn't learn that from him in time." I looked at Claire. She was watching me, hoping, not for forgiveness, just for acknowledgement. "I'm not ready to let you in, Claire. I don't know if I ever will be." She nodded, wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I understand. But I'll plant the bulbs. Your father did love daffodils." Something crossed her face. Not relief, just a small easing, like a weight shifting. "Go home to your daughter," I said. "Teach her to show up." "I will." She got back in her car. No hug, no more words. Just a small wave through the windshield before she pulled away. I stood there holding the bag of bulbs, 20 of them. Not enough to make up for a funeral, not enough to replace 3 months of absence. But something, a gesture. A beginning of understanding that wouldn't turn into reconciliation, but might turn into truth. I carried the bulbs to the garden, found a spot next to the tomatoes, knelt down, started digging. The soil was warm from the day's sun, loose, easy to work. I planted each bulb 6 inches deep, covered them, patted the dirt. "You won't see them bloom, Sophie," I said quietly, "but maybe your daughter will." The daffodils would come up in spring, yellow, bright, growing in the same garden where I'd planted what I chose, not what I was asked to plant, what I chose. Forgiveness isn't a light switch, it's a season. And I wasn't sure which season I was in yet, but I was no longer frozen. I watered the new bulbs. The garden smelled like tomatoes and basil and earth. The evening light was golden, soft, kind. I went inside, washed my hands, made dinner, just for me. Pasta with the fresh basil, the tomatoes I'd grown, the first meal from the garden Richard asked me to plant. It tasted like summer, like work, like something earned. November. 6 months after Richard died. I sat in Margaret's office one last time. The same wood paneling, the same windows. But the light was different now. Winter light, gray, honest. Margaret slid an envelope across her desk. Official, sealed. The trust documents, final and irrevocable. "The trust is complete," she said. "Cancer Research Foundation will receive everything upon your passing. 1.27 million. It's done." Good. Any regrets? Only that I didn't do this sooner. Margaret pulled out another envelope, this one thinner. Letter from Jessica's lawyer. They tried to contest the will, claimed undue influence, diminished capacity. I almost smiled. And they have no case. You were clearly of sound mind, clear intent, legal witnesses, and you have documentation going back 18 years showing a pattern of financial support without reciprocation. She pushed the letter toward me. They'll keep trying, but they won't succeed. I didn't open it, just held it. Paper and ink, desperation in legal language. Let them try, I said. I have receipts. Margaret leaned back in her chair, studied me. You look different than you did in April. I am different. Better? Clearer. Outside, the first snow was falling. Light, barely sticking. But there, the seasons had turned. Spring had come and gone. Summer had fed me. Fall had let me rest. Now winter was here. Not an ending, just a closing. A completion of one cycle before the next begins. I drove home slowly. The streets were wet, gray. The trees were bare. The neighborhood looked smaller in winter, more honest, less hidden by leaves and flowers and the performance of summer. At home, I made tea, sat by the window, watched the snow fall on the garden. The tomato plants were dead now, brown stalks I'd need to clear. The herbs had been harvested and dried. Hung in the kitchen, the strawberry plants were dormant, sleeping under mulch. But the daffodil bulbs were down there, under the snow, under the cold, waiting. They'd bloom in March, yellow, bright. A reminder that Claire had tried, late, insufficient, but still tried. I opened my journal, the one I'd started in July, after the garden, after the letter, after the dancing. December 14th, 6 months since Richard left. The house is quiet, but I'm not lonely. The garden is asleep, but I'm not dormant. I'm growing in ways I didn't know I needed. I wrote for 20 minutes. Not about the kids, not about the will, just about the day, the snow, the tea, the sound of the house settling, the ordinary present that was finally enough. I closed the journal, put it on the shelf next to Richard's engineering notebooks. My words next to his, both of us documenting lives, his of bridges and calculations, mine of survival and growth. The phone rang, not my cell, the landline. We'd kept it for years because Richard's mother used to call on it. She'd been dead 5 years, but we'd never disconnected it. I didn't answer. Checked the caller ID. Jessica. She'd tried 3 times this week. I didn't pick up, didn't call back. There was nothing left to say. The legal letters said it all. I unplugged the landline, coiled the cord, put it in a drawer. One more thing I didn't need anymore. Outside, the snow kept falling. By morning, everything would be white, clean, reset, new. Winter isn't an ending. It's a rest. A necessary pause before spring comes again. And I was learning to rest without guilt. To be still without feeling like I was failing someone. The house was mine. The garden was mine. The silence was mine. The future, whatever it held, was mine to choose. This chapter was done. Not finished. Done. There's a difference. Finished means complete. Done means you've said all you need to say, and the rest is just repetition. I was done. March. A year after Richard planted those tulip bulbs. They came up yellow, bright against the dark soil. The daffodils Claire brought bloomed too, mixed together. His planning and her apology. Growing side by side. Tyler came by on a Saturday morning, 20 now, taller somehow, more solid. He'd finished his carpentry certification, had a job with a construction company, but he still came on weekends. The reading nook was complete. 3 months of Saturdays, floating shelves on the wall, dark wood, clean lines, a leather armchair and camel, floor lamp with a brass base. Richard's engineering notebooks on one shelf, my journal on another, books I'd been meaning to read for years. "What do you think?" Tyler asked. I stood in the doorway, the room that had been Richard's office, his worry space, his late-night work zone, now mine, light, open, a place to read instead of grieve. "It's perfect." Tyler grinned, proud, not of the work itself, of what the work meant. "You want help with the garden today? I can turn the soil, get it ready for planting." We worked outside for 2 hours, Tyler with the shovel, me with the hand rake. We cleared the dead tomato stalks, turned the soil, mixed in compost. The earth was rich now, dark, full of last year's growth broken down into nutrients. "My mom says you're doing good," Tyler said. Didn't look up from the digging, just spoke to the ground. "Tell her thank you. She says you're stronger than most people she knows." I stopped raking, looked at him. This kid who showed up with muffins when my own children chose the beach, who built me a room to read in, who turned soil on a Saturday when he could be anywhere else. "You know what your mom taught me, Tyler?" "What?" "That family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's just people who show up." He nodded, kept digging. We worked in easy silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. When we finished, I made sandwiches. We ate on the back porch, watched the daffodils move in the wind, yellow and white, old promises and new attempts, both growing in the same dirt. "Same time next week?" Tyler asked when he left. "Same time." I watched him cross the lawn, waved. He waved back. The garden was ready. The room was finished. The house was mine. Small necessary things that make a life. Not grand gestures, just consistent presence. I went inside, sat in the new chair, opened a book. The afternoon light came through the window, warm, patient, mine. If you're still listening, I want to tell you something. This isn't a story about hate. It's a story about worth. For 35 years, I measured my value by how much I gave. I thought sacrifice was the same as love. I thought if I emptied myself enough, I'd be full of purpose. I was wrong. You can love people and still choose yourself. You can forgive people and still not give them access. You can honor someone's memory without funding people who didn't honor them in life. My children may never forgive me for what I did. That's okay. I'm not doing this for their approval. I'm doing it because Richard asked me to plant something. And I planted boundaries. I planted peace. I planted a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. If you're standing alone right now, at a funeral, in a kitchen, in a life that feels too quiet, I want you to know this. Alone isn't the same as abandoned. Sometimes alone is the first step toward found. The garden is growing, the daffodils bloomed, and I'm still here. Not waiting, not hoping, just living. And that, after everything, is enough. I'm 63 now. Richard's been gone a year. The house is quiet most days, but it's not empty. Dorothy comes by on Fridays, Tyler on Saturdays. Sometimes I sit in the reading nook and hear Richard's voice in my head, not haunting me, just keeping me company. The kids don't call. I don't expect them to. Claire sends a card on my birthday. Adam texted once to say he got a promotion. Jessica hasn't reached out since the lawyer's letter. Maybe she never will. I'm okay with that. More than okay. I'm free. If this story found something true in you, I hope you'll share it with someone who needs to hear it, not for me. For the woman sitting in her kitchen right now, wondering if she's allowed to choose herself. She is. You are. We all are. Thanks for listening. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It was full of me. And for the first time in decades, that was more than enough.